Don't make it about finding your purpose. Truly make it about growth. And when I say growth, that means do things you wouldn't normally do. Find out what you need in life, but take risks. Put yourself in challenging situations. When I say get better at the waiting process, think about what do I need to know about myself? And the only way I'm going to know is if I put myself in certain scenarios, certain hard situations. If you're a man in your 20s or 30s looking for a men's group Bible study to discuss and encounter stories that God uses in the book of Genesis to forge men, got something for you. August 11th at 6:45 at the Center for Executive Leadership here in Birmingham. The link is in the description. This is not a sales pitch, just here to come find out more about you, finding more about what I'm doing with the Forge. If you're ready for this full experience, please go to mentorforge.com and check out the Forge program. It's a combination, a weekly group with the podcast and monthly one-on-one meetings designed exactly for men who want to grow who they are and where they're at. So hopefully see you August 11th. Well, once again, we're grateful that y'all are listening, whoever's listening. Hey, Mom, thanks for listening.
Hey, Miss Morris.
We do appreciate y'all's support. Got a great episode today because it's something I think about and I wish someone told me. Because I would say a lot of what we're doing here is, and maybe I won't speak for you, Bo, but I'll speak for myself. There's so much, for lack of a better term, waiting in your 20s. You're waiting for whatever's next. Marriage, financial stability, personal growth, all the above, right? Leadership opportunities. It's all that is waiting. So therefore in the waiting, I wish I had my waiting time better that season of my life. And so it's a lot of what I do my work is how do I help men in their 20s, early 30s really utilize that time? Because I don't feel like I used it as well as I could have. So anyway, that's a little bit of a overall, but today, so maybe today that I want to give some context to that is, so today really is so many conversations and it's so centered around career, which is so much of this is so far beyond career, but is stop making your 20s about finding your purpose. I have too many conversations around that topic. I've created content around that topic because I've heard it so much. Mm-hmm. But now I'm like, I think back to my own story is sometimes, let me just address this elephant in the room. Okay, you find your purpose. As someone I will say found my purpose at 29, there's a lot of work comes from that. Then you got to basically create and build, basically find the platform to pursue your purpose. At least that's for me what happened. I think so many times we think in that in the career context. But to me, I felt this calling at 29 years old and feel like, all right, it's my purpose. And I knew I kind of had a general avenue and I'm going to take it. But, 11 years later now, I'm still figuring out, navigating, all right, well, how does this bring the most impact? How do I get people in the room? How do I get paid for it? Right. I love Tim Keller's line, and people have used other language about this. I'm trying to think, there's another term for it that Jim Collins used. Oh, the hedgehog concept. Tim Keller has a different terminology, but it's basically similar to the Jim Collins one, but it's your purpose is affinity, ability, and opportunity. Mm-hmm. So what do I have affinity? What do I have a passion for? I'm excited about. What I have the ability to actually execute, that I'm actually good at it, right? And then opportunity, whereas there is a space to step into it and get paid for it, mm-hmm. right? And so for me, that was 30 years old coming here to Birmingham, Alabama. The center, I had an opportunity, the ability, more and more as I stepped into it, I realized I had a great ability to help men navigate, be a guide, as a discerning, an advocate, however language you want to use for it, and as well as a passion, So all of that to say, it's you don't need to focus. The big idea for this episode, I would say, is don't make it about finding your purpose. Truly make it about growth. And when I say growth, that means do things you wouldn't normally do. Find out what you need in life, but take risks. Put yourself in challenging situations. When I say, yeah, like get better at the waiting process, think about, all right, so in the waiting, what do I need to know about myself? And the only way I'm going to know is if I put myself in
Mm-hmm.
certain scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
certain hard situations. For me, it was moving across the country. Um, Put me in a place where I didn't really know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I could easily slide into the cruise control button. So I needed to kind of almost like jolt my system. But that's not for everybody. But there's always like, I think when, yeah, you make it about this, when you make it about purpose, you solely fixate on possibly one, you focus on like from an occupational standpoint, and two, you focus in the context of like, what makes me feel good, if that's the language I'm looking for. What like feels good to me, and you're like, your brain just developed at 25. There's things you need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, what felt good for me at 25 does not make sense now. Like I was still figuring out my personality, my likes and dislikes. I was figuring out, I would have thought, me being a big shot CEO of a pastor of a church was my passion. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't need to be in a high energy, constant moving environment. That's just not how God wired me.
Mm-hmm.
And, more and more I need this type of pacing and stuff like that. So, yeah, anyway, you just so much so you have to learn in your 20s. And so when you focus on like, how do I get better at a craft? How do I grow spiritually? How do I become a better leader, a better person, a more better father, husband, friend, son, right? All the above. How do I add value to others? Thinking around those lines and not just saying, okay, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Because it does become so occupational focused and so emotional focused. And how do I put that aside and go, okay, I just need to grow. I need an environment where I can grow. So I think that's just kind of the big idea. We'll maybe unpack more of this, and I can share even more of my story, even your story, Bo, about how does that really manifest?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. Well, I think it's important too, like hearing you said that, I guess in my mind, I go to, it's probably important to define terms. So how would you define like purpose? Because my mind immediately went to, I think it's too strongly tied. At least for me in my 20s, it was purpose equals what I do for a living.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? How I'll make money, how I provide. And I think as I get into my 30s, it's not necessarily that. Like,
yeah,
and I think the whole, you know, the not that it doesn't still stay a priority to like pursue. I guess in my mind, it would be purposes the life or the thing that God has called you to
yeah,
do, right? And nowhere in that definition does it say this is like a type of job,
yeah,
and I didn't realize that in my 20s. I always thought like, well, I have to do what like I love to do,
yeah,
and then I had a kid in my early 30s and I'm like, I don't care what I do anymore.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got to
I
bring
want
home the
this boy
bacon.
fed, happy,
Yeah, yeah. So it's all,
thriving. Yeah,
you spend so much energy in your 20s trying to define it in a career, and then when you get into your 30s and have kids,
yeah,
it changes anyways.
right.
So anyway, yeah, how would you define purpose? Is that kind of how you would
Well,
say?
so this is why. So passion is a big one, right? And we do attach so much emotion to that. But I would put that in the top three. So, but I would put it the last. Though a lot of times when I meet with people, is I'm helping them process, and is you have to start with a pain point. Like if you have so one, yeah, I would call it calling, but I also start with the pain point. What is a pain point in your life? It was almost like, um, where it's, I think back to a conversation where I had with like a mentor or someone I looked up to, and it was just like me getting really animated about something that really bothered me, and And it was just the conversation led to them just saying, well, that's just the way it is. And my immediately, like in my spirit, I want to be like, what the blank are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we have to get to that point where we're constantly feeling this level of resistance, frustration in a certain area. And, you know, we look at people who have built really great things. It's like they had that pain point in their own life. They saw it in others, and they saw like a commonality of like, this is the way it is, but it shouldn't be so. How do I change that? Right? How do I adjust that?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to create to solve that problem? Being a solution oriented mindset. So I think but you got to live some life. And so it's part of the reason why we're having this episode, this conversation is like that's like, you really have to experience some hardship, some pain point. Places like St. Jude that are seeing, you know, kids have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a massive pain point. How do we solve this problem? This is the problem. They created an entire hospital focused on that, like,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's become, you know, nationally known as well as world known, right? So it's like, how do you then thinking about in that context at a smaller level, maybe in your own life, but then it's like, okay, therefore, if there's a pain point in my own life, then it's a solution for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got to be outward focused. I think to me, that's why the problem with occupation focused thinking is you're thinking more of my fulfillment.
Yeah.
And if God truly calls us your own purpose in your own life, right? There has to be some outward thing. How am I adding value? That's why I'm meaning like think in the context of growth, especially in how I add value to people, because that's really where you're going to find your purpose. I know, like for me, my skill set is sitting here helping a man discern his current life and understanding and give him a direction moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, that's my value. That's what God put me on this earth for,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is to help men do that. And so but that started with a pain point in my own life, seeing it in others, and then developing a skill set around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you got to start thinking outward focus. How do I help others? Me affecting added value. And then the last one, yeah, I think you got to be excited about it. I think that both of those two things got to then lead to like having excitement, a passion. So I think but too many times we start there. Anyway, did that define it pretty good?
Yeah, I think so. I think,
Covered it.
well, and also I think when you make it to occupation focus, so like, hey, I've got to match what this desire and
Mm-hmm.
perfectly with what I do.
Yes.
Then I think you put a lot of pressure on your job and then also who you work for. Because then that was my story. Like, because then you put that responsibility on, if I'm working
Yeah.
for Cartwright, then it's like, hey, Cartwright,
Yeah.
naturally, you know, maybe it's not so forward in your mind, but eventually it'll be like, hey, this isn't fulfilling me at the rate I need it to, and it's his fault. It's my boss's fault or her fault. And that's happened to me multiple times.
Yeah.
But I didn't I don't know, I wasn't you know, it turns out the problem was me the whole time. I mean, there were great jobs, great people, but there comes added pressure when you just make it about a job.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't mix well with a job.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Because you need to show up to the job and it's like, all right, how do I do my job well and really be a part of this machine
yeah,
and improve this place? But most people, it's like, well, I'm constantly doing things I don't want to do or I don't get excited about.
yeah,
Or I'm just killing time.
yeah,
Or my boss doesn't hear me or yeah. And you don't realize like, yeah, like this is somebody else. This could be, especially if you're in a small business or music, like this is somebody else's dream that I'm helping fulfill, not mine. So why do I focus on, they're not fulfilling my dream.
yeah.
Like, well, they're the one who took all the risk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, especially hiring your butt. You know, you naive 25-year-old.
It costs money.
Yeah, you cost money.
Yeah.
And so in thinking through, how do you add value? I think I've told this story a million times on this podcast maybe, but I just remember a friend of mine or a really acquaintance from high school that I hadn't seen in 10 years. I had coffee with him. and he moved here, uh, completely different career, transition, and couldn't find a job in that career. Had to move home back here to Birmingham, and then started interviewing, and kind of went around different interviews and kind of did what we all kind of do. I just need someone to give me a chance. And he had one guy who literally was it was a powerful moment. I wish more, we need to develop more leaders who can kind of brush aside everything and be more present in the conversation. But this leader did that, and he just went, I'm really tired of people your age just give me a chance. I wish you came in here and gave me a breakdown of how you're adding value to this place.
Yeah.
And he said that completely shifted his mindset. And he started really thinking about getting a job. It's like, oh, what interests me? Where does my skills really translate? And stopped like, oh, just give me a chance. I got to pay the bills. I got kids to feed. Help me out, please.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, that's not really the way you need to process this. And so that's why I'm keeping harping back. Where am I adding value to the world around me?
Yeah, I mean, because it's when you say I just need a chance. What I hear, and this is maybe not right, but what I hear is, I promise if you hire me, I won't screw this up.
Yeah.
Where in turn, you need to. It's the person hiring you is already thinking, okay, I'm going to spend X so that we can make Y,
Right.
which is usually 3 or 4 times whatever, sometimes more, whatever you're being, paid.
Yeah.
So how do you talk the same language as the
Right.
person that's
Yeah.
trying to make the decision on whether to bring you or not? And it's certainly not just give me a chance.
Right. Which is a great negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic, right? Like think a year. All right, the guy just reluctantly gives you a job, and then a year later you'll come in and ask him for a raise, and he's like, I thought this is what you just wanted a chance.
Right. Yeah.
What do you mean? No. Oh, and so thinking, well, if I'm adding value to that place, and they saw that value and they saw it really affecting. I mean, I hate to, sometimes it is the bottom line. Sometimes it's the culture. Sometimes it's just even the stress level of that boss went down, and they go, well, there's value this person has. It may not be strictly bottom line, but I see it in other areas. Hopefully people can pick apart whether there's leaders that actually do that or not. I don't know. But when you come in there and you show your value, then 100%, a year later, you have more bargaining chip to go, yeah, I'd like a raise.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And the more you can generate return or less stress on an owner, then the more leverage you have. But I guess, I mean, the whole point of this set is just not tying it all to an occupation, right?
Yes.
But I think it's just super easy to. I think when you're in college and you're, 18 to 22, somewhere in that range in college, usually, you're constantly thinking about, what am I going to do after this? Like, how am I going to make money? How am I going to use what I'm studying here to do something after?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think naturally we're just conditioned to just be thinking constantly about what job it is.
Yeah.
Because
what's next?
yeah, because I mean, you have to have a job.
Yeah.
Because you will have bills, so you have to have a job. But I think in terms of this, I think what I wish I had done more in my early to mid to late 20s, whatever, is put myself in more uncomfortable situations.
Yes.
And I think one thing that I learned is when put in an uncomfortable situation to show like extreme confidence, no matter if you are or you aren't. And I don't know if that's like great advice or what, but that was just one of the many things I learned, especially in coaching. But yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. But the point is like, or the question is, so what should the approach be? Because it is super important to find a job.
Yeah.
So what should the approach be? Is it wrong to try to match your passion with a job? Or it's not wrong, but it's just not the.
It shouldn't be the main priority.
It shouldn't be the main
priority.
priority. In your 20s. So then what else? So what else should a 23-year-old, 24-year-old getting out of school, what type of expectations should they have in their first job?
Yeah.
And
Well,
then how do they pursue their passion possibly outside of the job,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, well, that is probably a whole nother episode is like, all right, just, yeah, finding time to pursue it, figure that out. But part of it is getting in the job. You then start figuring it's like, oh, I don't want to be in this type of culture. I don't, sometimes we learn by process of elimination, unfortunately. Oh, I don't want to, for me, it was
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's true, though.
you
That's
know,
100% true.
like in my mind, there was always I could go work for a church. That might be, and like, just even volunteering at churches and some bigger ministries, you realize like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Like that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think that's an environment for me.
Yeah.
So you kind of think through process elimination a lot of ways. So that's why even I really encourage from what you said, just put yourself in uncomfortable situations because you just kind of, and a lot of it is just working for different types of leaders, being in different cultures, environments, dealing with different people, and you just get different perspectives. But the mindset really should be, so, okay, like I said, before, like, all right, how do I grow? And I feel like the most, and really it is like, you got to consume content around that. I keep coming back to this thought, and so maybe this is what I'll flesh out, is probably every year since 2020, or maybe every 6 months, I have just watched parts of The Last Dance. Maybe for nostalgia reasons, but there's just something to learn about Michael Jordan. There's something here. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not going to promote him as a family man or a guy outside, but there's something about his mindset about success that is just so fascinating that people still talk about today. Like players even today saying he just had an aura. But there was something that they said at the beginning of the last episode of that was like Michael Jordan had like Buddhist level like presence to him, like people that just try their whole life to be present, and Michael just had naturally. Like he's not worried about the missing a shot they hadn't taken yet. And there was like anytime the moment got so big for a lot of people, he was like, just so present in it in the moment. And so I would say, going back to the college thing, that was something I wish someone just sat me down. Like, man, those 4 years, do what you need to do, but enjoy it. Right? Learn to be present, but in your mind, we're so trained. Like,
What's next?
Yeah, and also I got to learn to be responsible. I got to learn how to, So, and I'm not being real responsible now. How do I learn to be? There's just all these like fears of what could happen, how I'm going to mess it up, what type of person I'm going to be. And you're just like learning to be present in that moment, appreciate it, take what's in front of you, steward it well. I mean, that's why Jesus said, be faithful with little can be faithful with much, because you learn to just go, what's in front of me? What have you given me, God? And so I think that's the mindset. So like, all right, what interview, especially, all right, you're stepping out of college, what interviews have I been given? All right, I've sent my resume to these places. I've gotten a degree in this. Let me just see what happens. All right, who's giving me an interview? All right, I'm going to steward that well. I'm going to show up. I'm going to bring myself. I'm going to be cordial. I'm going to be nice. Like, and then it's like next level. Like, stop worrying about and this is probably, I'm talking to myself more. Stop worrying about 3, 4, 5 steps down the road.
Yeah.
Learn to be present. And I bring up the Last Dance thing, is this is what made Michael Jordan so successful. And you're like, oh, and like the author of his biography kind of said, like, his gifting, yeah, he could jump high, he was insanely athletic, but at the same time, this was gifting. Like, no matter how big the moment, he was so in it, he was present.
Yeah.
So learning how to do that at a young age, and God wired certain us all to do that better than others, but learning how to do that, of just take what's given to you. Oh, okay, I've gotten this job opportunity. Well, it's like 90% commission. It's like, okay, I've been in one of those jobs before. It's not easy. So for a lot of us, including myself, probably is a good lesson. Like, oh, I don't need to be in a sales role where it's my primary form of income. So learning, okay, all right. But I was like, all right, how to be successful in this area? Who do I need to talk to? Just learning about yourself, learning about growth, learning where am I best fit. Yeah, I think that's kind of the mindset to focus on. And, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of this research is even just in your interviewing and process is thinking about the culture, the organization, ask that question. What are some of the employees saying about the organization? Is it a good place to work? Is it a good place to grow? Is it, place that really is accepting of you, but yet challenges you to get better? So yeah. Is there a high turnover rate? There was a place I worked at that really liked the people, but
That's a big red flag.
when they, people are there no longer than 2 or 3 years, like there's a reason for that, so, and it's more than just one reason usually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question for you because it kind of flips it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess what I think, you can listen to this two different ways. Like if I'm 25 and I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, okay, so I just need to kind of, relax more about completely connecting what my purpose is, my passions are with how I make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes they can interconnect in certain ways, but sometimes they will not necessarily, whatever, but you can find it other places. So what do you say to the guy that is like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait on God to do this. And to other people, it's like, no, dude, you seem like you're avoiding responsibility. Right. So, yeah. So like, how do you, cause it's two sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
The one side, which was me, was putting insane pressure on myself to find this purpose fulfillment in what I did every day at my job.
Right.
And then the opposite side of the spectrum is, okay, well, I'll just be super still.
Yeah.
God says to be still.
Yeah.
I'll be super still and just kind of wait on this.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those people?
Well, so the word in the Psalms for waiting, that actually means like, it's a cord being stranded together. It's a very actually an active word.
Oh, cool.
Almost. So it's like, so when you, time.
So not just not moving.
So the waiting is actually, I'm trying to put myself in entanglement with God.
Okay.
So therefore there's an active movement. So when you go, in waiting is, okay, you got to pay the bills. There's still like,
yeah,
you have to learn responsibility. I mean, nobody wants to trust someone who has never had any responsibility. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a story. I remember I was in New York City with a mentor, Andy Mason, and he was speaking at a ministry one morning, and this guy, he's somewhere in Europe. I remember he had an accent. He could speak English, and he had been living in New York for 6 months, and he started like talking to me and Andy about how he is going to have this great ministry, and God's called me to serve thousands, and it's going to be great. And Andy was like, so what are you doing now? Well, right now, God's called me this. So I've been sleeping on people's couches and haven't taken a job because I'm waiting for God to give me millions to do this.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm asking about.
So you've inconvenienced all these people jumping from couch to couch, using their goodwill for you to like wait for God to give you the money, like, but you're not you haven't been. That's going back to the being faithful with little thing. Like, okay, what's been given to you right now? Just do that.
Well, and you're not by your definition earlier. You're not putting yourself in a position to grow because you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Right.
So this guy, maybe it's the best advice for him is go do something and fail at it.
Yes. Fail royally. That's going back to
You
pain
know?
point. You got to go through something to actually
Yeah, I mean,
know what you want to do.
you
Yeah.
can't steer a boat unless it's moving forward,
Yeah.
right? Hey, you told me that before.
God uses a moving vessel.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I always think about that. And I guess you probably do see it a lot in ministry, you know, with people that want to go into ministry and, um, but I think you do see it a lot with, you know, with people that, you know, we probably grew up with that
Mhm.
whose parents maybe have some money and, it's like, well, I'm waiting on, I'm trying to find my calling. I'm trying to find myself,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, ooh, um, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I need to go do this or, it's like, but yeah, but
Mhm.
you're not putting yourself out there. You're not growing. You're not,
Yeah.
even if it's not perfectly aligned with what you think it is you're here to do.
Mhm.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything,
Right.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. So this is what happens is I think sometimes because this is why this podcast exists. This is why I do is you in your 20s, you get hit in the face pretty good. We've talked about that. Like it is a prime opportunity to experience. You get hit with real life, right? In a sense. But a lot of what happens is when people in their 20s experience that causes them not to reflect, evaluate what happened, why it happened, what was God teaching me, what was God intending for me to know in that. Most people just recoil to safety. So talking about people that we know in this area, it's like, yeah, when they can kind of go back to, I hate to say it this way, not because this is not necessarily for everyone, but like you go back and just work for your dad.
mm,
You go, parents buy you a house, an apartment just right down the road, and you're just content. And you're like, man, because I stepped out and I got hit in the face. I don't like that.
yeah,
But there was a treasure. There was something for you to learn. And this is, talking about getting into some of this content this fall. It's like, there's something to learn in each of the stories of the Bible, some treasure, especially in the failure moments. Like, ooh, there was like we'll get in more of this, but there was, especially in the Old Testament, is you think about, we as Westerners look at the Old Testament as like, give me the information. I want the knowledge. All right, what's the truth of the story so I can get the information and apply it? Or an Eastern thought is, well, I want to know the story because I want to discover the truth in it. I want the discovery part. I want to understand it. And I think God is inviting us all that in our own story. And I think sometimes we miss that in our 20s because it's hard, and we get hit in the face. And, I'm so grateful because, I had parents who really, and a support system around me that really encouraged me to not settle and to just revert back to what I knew, but actually, encouraged me, supported me in kind of harder situations to kind of go, all right, this is an opportunity for you to grow, to learn, to understand,
yeah,
and to, we'll support you or help you out in any way. But like, no, you need to stay in that spot. It's like, oh crap.
yeah,
That's where you actually grow.
yeah.
There's something that there's always in the pain, like it's wild. Yeah.
Well, and there's also growth opportunities too. So like if you, this was my experience a little bit. So, and this is what I didn't understand back then, but I was in jobs that I really did not like.
Mm-hmm.
I did some jobs I really didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
that were like not exciting to me, like didn't get me excited in the morning to go to work. Like
Mm-hmm.
Sunday nights, I'm like, oh gosh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, there's even growth in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I learned like, okay, do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I learned that like, and I remember my dad telling me too, like, hey dude, like it's just, this is work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was exiting this like, I keep talking about coaching, but it's just my story. Like I was, I was coaching. I loved it. I worked, you know, from sun up to sundown, never saw my wife. Um, you know what I mean? So like I was passionate about that. Like
Yeah.
I could still be doing that, but I chose my marriage over that because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So my point is I'm thrust into,
Yeah.
an inside sales job where I'm in a cubicle.
Yeah.
And like, you can imagine the torture, you know what I mean? Like, I'm used to
Yeah.
flying around the country, recruiting players and building a team and,
Yeah.
and helping, these 20 guys that I had in my wide receiver room kind of learn the offense and work together. It was just like everything that I loved. And then I'm thrust into a cubicle.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the good part was I was home every day at 5,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
got to know my wife again. But like, I remember having that conversation with my dad, and my dad was like, "Hey, look, man," like, and that's where I started to understand, like,
Mhm.
in order to, we've had the episode on sacrifice before,
Yeah.
but it's like in order to, you say you want to, you say you want to stay married and be there and start a family with Carly. There's certain sacrifices for that. You have to
Yeah.
sacrifice, what you do every day. To bring this all back together to what this whole episode's about. Um, that was when I started to kind of at least hear for the first time that like
Mhm.
what I did every day, 8 to 5, I started to take the pressure off of what that was to in a way to where it had to be what I was super passionate about.
Yeah.
Because my dad was telling me it very subtly, but um, like it doesn't, like, this is work. Like, it's called work
Mhm.
because it's work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, there's plenty of examples of like people that work and that are doing their passion and all that stuff, but like, it's work. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I never got that. I started to get it late in my 20s, but like,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be perfect. You're gonna have issues with people. Like, stuff is gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not living out your purpose. It means that you're working every day.
Right.
And it's like, it took me years to figure that out. And so I think that's what's so interesting about this episode. And what you were talking about is that, it's so easy to tie like, okay, I'm trying to find my purpose. And that just so naturally, shifts into, well, it has to be in my job,
Right.
but it's not.
No.
It doesn't have to be in your job.
Yeah.
And it's okay to like not absolutely be in love with what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
think
it actually could provide the financial means to do what you love.
yeah, exactly.
Or maybe your purpose is like family. Yeah. I mean, that could shift to that.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah. So going back to your point, so what that's doing is teaching you, all right, at the end of the day, there's still things I need to be responsible for. So when you do, let's say, yeah, you do find your purpose through your occupation, well, guess what? Like you said, there's still responsibilities. There's still people you got to deal with. There's still like hard times. Like that's what's so wild about it. So you're making a great point because it's like figure out how to do that well when you're not passionate about it, when it's not your purpose. So that when you do, like, yeah, this is just part of it.
Yeah.
Right. This is what's so weird about people. It's like, oh, there's a level of like, yeah, there's a complete miss of like, when you do find your purpose, it may make it easier, but there's still those things there. There's still responsibilities there.
Right. And
you still got to grow and build
that's
it.
so true. I mean, and you're speaking directly to me
Yeah.
because you've coached me on this for years, but
Yeah.
like, it's not a disqualify, like the issues that you face day to day, which you will face day to day because it's work,
Right.
are not disqualifiers for you not being in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
yeah.
and that's constantly where my head went. And it still goes sometimes like, well, I'm having this big issue, so I must be, in the wrong place. Well, it's like, well, Bo, you're going to go find something else. And in 6 months, you're going to have the same issue.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just taken me so long to figure that out. Like, it's just so naturally where my head goes. And I can imagine, I know a lot of guys whose heads work the same way. It's like, there is this kind of marriage between, like, you hate to just like poo poo on work, but like, work is not like always supposed to be super fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what I mean? And I think like with guys my age and guys that are in their early 20s, I mean, we're so used to just this instant gratification. Like, if I'm not having fun doing this, or if I'm not being like mentored into and invested into, like, this is probably not the right place. And it's like, no, dude, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, Bo, that's just you're in the right place. You're just uncomfortable.
Right.
You can be in the right place and be uncomfortable. Those two
that's
things can happen at the same time.
And that's what's wild. I think it's a great point. So waiting, another way to even wants to find waiting is like, what do you do with that discomfort?
Yeah.
Like, what do I,
Well, I'll tell you what I mean, my whole thing in my 20s was I got to get out of here.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you're looking grass is greener.
Yeah.
Are the opportunities for some, it's self-medicate, right?
Yeah.
Alcohol, porn, gambling, scrolling, right? All that. Yeah, that's how do you not revert? So what do I do with that discomfort? Because there's a lot of things you could do with that. And some of it is, all right, it's like, all right, there's something God has for me in this.
Yeah.
There's something I'm learning about leadership, about myself, about what I want to do the rest of my life. There's just so there's something else you said that really stimulated thought, and I think I just lost it. But it's just, what do you do with all of that really should, prepare you for what's coming? He doesn't waste anything. I look back now in my life, and there's moments that were really hard, and I go, oh, that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
You were preparing me for this.
Yep.
You were preparing me for that.
Yeah.
It's like, it didn't look as pretty, and I don't feel like I handled it as best as I could, but you were still preparing me, and you used it. Those low moments. It's like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And
I remember going through a situation with you where you were coaching me. I was working for a guy that that was kind of it was just me and him, but he was in charge. He owned the business, and I mean, you remember this, and it was like I just couldn't get any vision, or I didn't know where we were going or what the
and he
purpose
wasn't
was.
bringing you in,
Yeah, and so I remember,
even though you're the only employee.
yeah, right. But I mean, but the point, I remember you coaching me on this was, and I didn't see it at the time, but it's like you just said, it's what spurred that thought. I see it now, but you were trying to teach me during all that. It wasn't like, hey, this is what you do to go fix that guy.
Yeah.
The teaching and the coaching you gave me was, okay, tell me what you're learning about how to lead one day.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking of it that way, being like, yeah, but how does that help me right now? But I mean, it
gives purpose to the pain.
It gives purpose to the pain. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like while you're in the middle of it, it's like, okay, I'm being formed and shaped for whatever is in the future. It could still be at this job, and I'm just a better version of my working self, or it could be somewhere else where I'm actually leading somebody, and I'm going to be like, oh, wait, I got to communicate this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to be clear about this stuff, and these people, these ambitious people that you hire, they need that.
Yeah.
Because I needed it, and I didn't get it, and it hurt.
Yeah.
So I remember you doing that, and it didn't. I mean, I was probably in my late 20s at the time, and it didn't really tick at the time because it was like, this is not making me feel better right now.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like, I need a plan. But I didn't need a plan. God had me in that to help shape me, and it gave me a better understanding of how to lead people and how to be led by people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That struck a nerve. That's totally true.
Yes. Yeah. And that was, I do remember that. Because it is wild, because I didn't have him in front of me.
Yeah.
And, I imagine there's something in his past that he didn't address that caused him to be closed off and, really protective of what he had, right?
But it's like, we're not going to spend our time talking about that.
Yeah, because we can't change that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we can't change you.
Yeah. But we can sit here for an hour and a half and talk about how he's wrong about this.
Yeah. If you wanted it to be a venting session, we could have done that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is.
No.
We're forging men.
Yeah.
We're forging you. We're not forging the people around you. Anyway, so.
Yeah, and that's where you can have moments to wallow, to be pissed off, to be angry about the situation. But at some point, there has to be a shift to going, okay, what am I learning? How am I growing? How am I changing? How is this shaping my purpose? You can even get to that place.
Yeah.
In life, in career, whatever. But ultimately, it's like you got like there's something being in my story that's being used here, and you can even get frustrated with God about it. Like, why did you put me in this situation? But ultimately, like that, you have to get to that place of seeing it from His eyes and go, okay, God doesn't care about me making millions of dollars in 2 seconds and finding the absolute joy in everything I do, because I would just completely take advantage of it. I would completely miss the point of it if He did that.
Yeah.
Then, and I could compare myself to other people who I think have that, but ultimately there's something else they're dealing with.
Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine who did a great job. It's like, one day it's like, man, I was like, my marriage is great. Work is good. My kids are great. Got a good community, but man, we were just struggling financially. And he goes, "Oh, good. So you got one thing that's challenging you, that's growing you, that's stretching you."
That's interesting.
It's like you gotta have one thing.
Yeah.
He's going.
I
And
needed to hear that.
you know. So it's like, crap.
It's always one thing.
There's a thing in your life that He's using to grow you and strengthen you, because He's prepared. He wastes nothing. He's preparing you. There's a line that always sticks in my head. It's like He wastes nothing and He makes you ready.
Yeah.
For something.
Yeah.
And you got to.
So maybe that's part of the plan of you finding your purpose. It's like I think the purpose word is sometimes, I think could be so overused that it just has so many different definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my definition of it, honestly, in my 20s was what's going to make me feel good.
Yeah. It's about
my purpose is
feel good.
My purpose was 100% tied to what's going to fulfill me. Because why would God not want me to be in a spot where I'm just 100% fulfilled and happy? But that's the lie.
Yeah.
And it's like in your 20s, I mean, how easy is it to fall into that?
Yeah.
I mean, my purpose must be that I'm comfortable, I'm fulfilled, and I, get all the autonomy in the world, and I get all, what I mean? I make the money I want. And if this job doesn't feel that, then like, this isn't part of my purpose. It's like, no, that's not the definition of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think today, like, I think the purpose thing has the wrong definition attached to it.
Yeah.
And
you need to think, and maybe not wrong definition, so shifting that, but also like even your mindset towards it of make it about not finding it and it being this like life altering moment, but think about it in the context of discovery. Like God's continually drawing you closer to Him. He wants you to know Him so that when He gives you the thing that you want, you don't immediately worship that thing and you worship Him.
Yeah.
Because that's what ends up happening, though, right? We get the thing we want and we worship that.
Yeah.
That's what it meant. That's the first commandment, man. You have to know other gods before me.
Yeah.
Because when we make those things a God.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds churchy too. I mean, it sounds churchy, but it's just, I know it to be true because I've experienced it, and I've tried so many different jobs and things, but you're right. I think maybe the whole point of it sometimes is like a lot of this stuff's not going to make sense to you in your 20s, even your 30s, or throughout your whole life. But the tension in that, you and I talk about this all the time, is something you taught me that I think about all the time. Is like if there's tension between two truths, God does want you to be happy.
Yeah.
He does want you to be fulfilled. He does. He wants you to do something that you enjoy doing. I mean, He doesn't want you to be at a job that sucks. Like that's not His, you know what I mean? So like, but the tension between those two truths is, well, maybe it's not about either one of those things. Maybe it's because the only way I can really get true fulfillment is through Him.
Yeah.
You taught me this. He's a relational God.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, Bo, stop looking at all these different things.
Yeah.
And look at me for just a second.
Yeah.
And like maybe the point is for Him, if you're in your 20s, it's God trying to get your attention and be like, hey, just for a second, look at me. you're thinking about all these different things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're dealing with all these different issues
Yeah.
and things that you're battling in your brain and stuff. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
maybe the point of it is to get your attention
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
find the one that wants to have a relationship with you and work through it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I remember you taught me that, and it's always changed. It takes the pressure off of like not having a great understanding of everything that's going on in my life. You know, and then when that's been my requirement that I got to get my hand around this and understand it.
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's trying to get your grip on a slippery bar of soap. It doesn't work.
No.
And so the point is maybe, hey, Bodie, you're not, you know, this is not about you figuring this out. This is about you going to the God that wants to have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
That you can figure it out with.
Man. Yeah, that's good. I think that might be the great way to end it. Man, but that's good. So anyway, if you would hit the link in the bio, we have a course for you to find your purpose.
You have to be happy. You know?
No, man. Yeah, that's good.
We'll teach you how to be happy. Yeah, we'll teach you. Cartwright will teach you how to be happy. And he'll teach you how to fix all the people around you that are idiots.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, man. Oh,
it's not you, man.
It's not you. It's everybody else. Dang.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
That's the lesson itself, man. 100%.
I love those stories you tell me about guys that just want you to, you know, come in and fix it.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah. And anytime I try to help it, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, stop. This is not why I'm here.
Looking at me? It's not me.
Yeah.
Dude.
And that's part of me. The learning process for me is I got to say that up front.
Yeah.
I'm not here to fix the problem. I'm here to help you discern and understand what's going on in your life.
Yeah. And
help you navigate it. Anyway. All right. Appreciate y'all listening. Man, I hope this was helpful. If this resonated with you, and you know somebody that would, please share with them. That would be great. Hey guys, Cartwright here. Excited about what we're doing in Men Are Forged. If you want to participate in one of our episodes, please send in a question. We want this podcast to answer the questions you're asking. In the description, click that link. Hey, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Today's episode is brought to you by Bravenly Hydrate. It's hot out there, and you got to stay hydrated because regular water is just not going to cut it. And the main brand sports drinks got stuff you don't need to consume. So I recommend hitting the link in the bio and checking out Bravenly Hydrate. Lemon lime's my favorite flavor, but I recommend checking out more of Bravenly products. It's really great stuff for your health and well-being. So hit the link in the bio to find out more about Bravenly products.